Dear students, today we will start our discussion on one of the important topic, that is custom as a source of international law. We already studied in our jurisprudence and also in other subjects different kinds of sources which we have as far as laws are concerned. Take for example, in your family law you studied the sources which includes both customs as well as the legislation. Similarly, in jurisprudence, theoretically we studied important sources of law which includes legislations, customs, like this. So similarly, on similar lines, we also have to discuss the sources of international law in the context of the way in which international relationship or the relationship among the states are being regulated, and where is the source from where the rules can be deduced or the rules can be found which can be applied in settling disputes involving the two or more nations. So in this backdrop, in today we will start the discussion on custom as a source of international law. So proceeding further, so the plan is to have almost 5 lectures on this topic. In the first lecture, we will be looking into introduction to the sources of international law. As such, we'll be having a general outline or general overview as to what are considered as the key sources of international law. That is what will be done in the first lecture. In the second lecture, we will be specifically dealing with custom as a source of international law. How far custom has established itself as a source of international law, and what are the requirements for saying that yes, there is a customary rules which can be treated or which is considered as a rule of international law. That will be studied. Third lecture, which gives us again in more elaboration to what we studied in the lecture 2, we specifically deal with tests of transformation of practices and usages into customary rules of international law. In other words, in this lecture we'll be studying what kind of practices, what kind of usages of the nations are transformed, or they took the shape, or they became rules of international law by treating them as international customs. So that is what we'll be studying in lecture 3. Two important tests are there which we'll be studying in greater details. And as a further emphasis, or as a uh, what we say can be considered as the further application of these principles, what we study in lecture 3, in the actual settlement of disputes by the judicial bodies at the international level, are going to be studied through two important cases. They are Packard Havana case and Lotus case. In the lecture 4, we will be studying how the theoretical aspects which we studied, or which we will be understanding in lecture 2 and 3, are being applied in those two important judgments. Fifth and the last lecture series on this uh, custom as a source of international law, we will be trying to understand the crystallization of customary international law through multilateral lawmaking conventions. On the one hand, international conventions are considered as the first and the most important source of international law, but even those international conventions, lawmaking conventions, they may also lead to, or they themselves can lead to recognition or evolution of international customs. Even that is something which can happen, and we will be studying even that process of crystallization of customary international law through multilateral or multilateral lawmaking conventions. Here also we will be studying few important cases to understand how this crystallization happens, how those international conventions will give rise to, or they lead to shaping of new international customary rules. This is the plan for this topic, customs as a source of international law. We will be starting with lecture 1, that is introduction to the sources of international law. So as far as international law is concerned, until recent times, maybe from till last 100 years, if at all someone says that what is the source of international law, most of them they say that the almost every thing in international law can be traced to some international customs or customary principles. Until recently, international customs were considered as the only source or the one of the major source of international law. Most of the principles, how they became law, because they were treated as international customs, therefore they were considered as law. This was the position until very recently, almost till the last century. That was the situation, and they evolved. These international customs, or what we say international rules, customary rules, have evolved after a long historical process. It's not something which is going to happen in 1 or 2 days. It's a long historical process culminating in the recognition by international community. For a very long period of time, so many nations have been following few practices or follows. There have been some common usages which are observed by almost all the states for a very long period of time. They gradually, what they get, those practices, those usages, they get the recognition by the international community, as if those usages are practices are not just casual practices, but they are laws. Actually, they are rules which are binding on them. This is how the international customary rules have evolved. So, but what happened recently is there has been a drastic decrease, or what we can say, there has been a drastic uh, reduction in the number of new customary international laws being evolved in the last 100 years. So there has been a drastic decrease in the customary international law since last 100 years. This is mainly due to emergence of international conventions or multilateral agreements or treaties as the most important source of international law. Till it this treaties acquired this pioneer position or the leading position, custom continued for centuries as a sole and the most important source of public international law. But there has been a decrease in this regard, but international law still has a significant role to play, as a play a very significant and a dynamic source for evolution or emergence of fresh rules of international law. Even though it's a scope, even though it's influence, even though the number of instances where customary rules have evolved as new principles of international law, we cannot say that we don't have new customary international rules. Even though treaties played a very important role, it doesn't mean that all of it altogether the custom has lost its relevance. No, it is not the case. Even today, we find many instances where international customs are still evolving as a fresh rules of international law. In this regard, it's of great interest for us to study some of the important instances where we can still find new international principles are being evolved based on the practices of the states or the usages of the states, which leads to emergence of new international customary rules. So, customary elements or customary rules have been considered as the most ancient as well as the most modern rules of international law. We can find very recent rules which have been evolved very recently as international practices and usages, which are now being recognized as rules of international law by the nations. At the same time, we can find initial stages of development of international law. We could find only customs as a source of international law. So this is the brief introduction as to the custom as a source of international law. Moving further is, what is the current position? Now, if at all we ask theoretically, if you ask from what is the basis to say these are the sources of law and these are not sources of international law, how to decide it? What shall be the basis? In this regard, Article 38, Clause 1 of the Statute of the International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice is of paramount importance. Today, if someone asks why you still treat custom as a source of law, why you treat international conventions as a source of law, where to find answer? Ultimately, the most authoritative statement, as I quote, so it is this Article 38, Clause 1 of the Statute of the International Court of Justice is considered as the most authoritative statement as to sources of international law of the present times. today, what shall be the basis to say or to treat something as a source of international law? You can refer to Article 38 of the ICJ statute. There we find why we treat some of them which we study in the future as sources of international law. Let us now just have an overview or just have a brief look into the contents of this Article 38 Clause 1 of the International Court of Justice statute. Let us see that. So it says that the court, the court means the ICJ, because this is the uh, article in the statute of ICJ. So whenever it refers to court, it refers to the International Court of Justice. It says that the court whose function is to decide in accordance with international law such disputes as are submitted to it, that court shall apply following items or following things as sources of international law. Are following are considered to be following things are to be applied in deciding the case. To just uh, look into some of the significant terms which have been used in the first point, let us see. The court whose function is to decide disputes. Ultimately, International Court of Justice is there to settle the disputes, so it has to decide the cases. Then whenever it has to decide the cases or disputes to be settled, how it is to act, that is what has been said under Article 30. It says that the court, that is International Court of Justice, whose function is to settle the disputes, how it is going to settle the disputes, it is not according to its whims and fancies, or according to some faith or some religious text. No, how it has to be settled, how to settle the disputes in accordance with international law. So International Court of Justice has to settle the disputes in accordance with international law. Of what kind of disputes? Such disputes as are submitted to it. I hope you can understand this. We should know that the jurisdiction of International Court of Justice is not compulsory. It is something which is left to the discretion of the concerned parties to the dispute. They have to submit themselves to the jurisdiction of ICJ, then ICJ will take up the case. That is the general rule. So whenever some cases are submitted to the jurisdiction of ICJ and the parties ask the ICJ to settle the disputes, then which law the ICJ shall apply? The International Court of Justice shall apply. A list has been given under Article 38 of its statute as to what should be looked into by the International Court of Justice in settling such disputes as is submitted to it. According to that article, it says that the International Court of Justice can look into these things. International conventions, those conventions can be general or particular, but what they are doing, they are establishing rules expressly recognized by contesting states. That is the first source of international law which is going to be applied by the courts, International Court of Justice, in settling the disputes which are being submitted to it. So first what the court will look into international conventions. That means international treaties, law making treaties, which may be general or particular. They may be bilateral, they may be multilateral, they may be of general importance, of universal application. So what those treaties or conventions are going to do, they are going to establish rules. They are going to create rules which are expressly recognized by contesting states. Whichever the states which are parties to the disputes, they have expressly recognized, they have accepted those international treaties or conventions. Then those are the most important things which will be looked into by the International Court of Justice to settle those disputes, because those international conventions are going to be treated as sources of international law by that body. So first thing. Then comes international customs. International customs as evidence of a general practice accepted as law. So not every custom. International custom as evidence of a general practice accepted as law. That is, so this is something which we are going to study in more details in the coming lectures. So what kind of international customs? As evidence of a general practice accepted as law. There should be some practice which has been accepted, practice or usage which has got general acceptance, or what we say general practice. It is not a particular practice of a particular nation in a particular instance. Such practices may not be considered as international customs. International customs, to find out what is something is international custom, what is the evidence? As evidence of a general practice. So there should be a general practice accepted as law. So general practice is the way in which we conduct ourselves, and how we treat those practices. We treat them as laws. They are accepted as law. So even they are considered as sources of international international law, which can be applied by International Court of Justice in settling its disputes. Moving further, in general principles of law are recognized by civilized nations. The general principles of law recognized by civilized nations are also considered as a source of international law. To what extent it is going to be a source of international law, we'll be studying after completing our discussion on custom as a source of international law and treaties as a source of international law. Even that general principles of law recognized by civilized nations, what it is, how it is going to work, what is the extent to which such a uh, principle is considered as a source of international law, we will be discussing in the coming lecture. Moving further, next important source according to section 38, article 38 is subject to the provisions of article 59, which says that the decisions of International Court of Justice is not a precedent, or it is not binding in the future in deciding future decisions. As we studied in our jurisprudence, precedent is the most important source of law, whereas International Court of Justice statute don't recognize the ICJ judgment itself as a precedent in the future cases. It is not binding on ICJ, but Article 38 says that even though it is not binding, that is what has been said there, subject to the provisions of Article 59. Article 59 says that the ICJ's judgments are not binding in the future cases, but it can be used. Judicial decisions, judicial decisions of ICJ, and not only that, the teachings of the most highly qualified publicists of the various nations as subsidiary means of determination of rules of law. Even this is subsidiary means, even judgment of ICJ is not binding, but it can be considered as a source from which the ICJ can decide the case. And teachings of the most highly qualified publicists, the people who are well versed in the law, international affairs, current affairs, so they will be giving their views, they will be giving their thoughts or teachings. They may have their own uh, theories. So even they can be considered, or they can be looked into by the International Court of Justice in deciding the disputes which are submitted to its jurisdiction. So from these discussions, what we can deduce, or what we can uh, ascertain, is that we can categorize the sources of international law, modern international law, into five categories. Categories are kinds of sources of international law can be deduced from whatever has been stated under Article 38 of ICJ statute. Let us look into those categories. Material sources of international law, they can be grouped under this head: customs, because it is the oldest as well as the most modern source of international law. Custom, then treaties, international conventions are considered as a sources of international law. Then comes decisions of judicial and arbitral tribunals. To what extent they are international sources of international law, again we will be looking into in the future lectures. Then comes juristic works, the works of philosophers. Law philosophers are the people who are well versed in the and international relations or international law. Even their views or their works can also be a source of international law. Then decisions or determinations of organs of international institutions, including ICJ for that matter. Even though it may not be authoritative or binding source, but that can be considered as a useful source from where the principles of law at the international level can be deduced, and they can be applied in settling disputes which may come before international adjudicatory authorities, or even arbitrary arbitration tribunals. So these are the categories of sources of international. In the backdrop of this, now in the next lecture we will be studying about custom as a source of international law, and we will start that lecture with a, a brief understanding of difference between custom, practice and usage, and how it is going to how this difference is going to make us understand in a better way the international customary rules as a source of international. We'll start this discussion in the lecture 2. So thanks for